Welcome to our STEM Lyceums event this month. Our theme is Internet of Things in Healthcare. Up on this screen, you will see just a little bit of our websites, our center's contact information. We have a website where you can contact us on social media. And we also have information about our 4 programs: Research Science Institute, TEP, USABO, and the program that is sponsoring today's event, STEM Lyceum. Welcome again, everybody who is joining us. My name is Laura Ashley. I am the program manager for STEM Lyceums. And this is our last STEM Lyceums event for spring 2022. All right, so before I get started, I want to tell you all a little bit about CEE. We are a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1983 by Admiral Rickover, who is the father of the nuclear navy, and also our president, Joanne DeGennaro. The Center for Excellence in Education has a mission to nurture high school students to careers in STEM. And the mission for STEM Lyceums, we hope through this program to engage students, high school students, in discussions and explorations of STEM concepts and STEM career pathways. Okay, so at this time, I want to introduce our 2 speakers for today's event. We have Dr. Steve Hirschman and we have Carlos Albuja. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about both of them. Dr. Steve Hirschman received his bachelor's degree in biochemistry and his master's degrees in both chemistry and computer and information sciences from the University of Pennsylvania, and his PhD in systems biology from Harvard University. Dr. Hirschman has over a decade of experience tackling technical challenges related to medicine. He previously co-founded Interpret, which is a Blueprint Health Accelerator company, and he is also an RSI 04 alum, and RSI is one of CEE's programs for students. Carlos Albuja is a product manager for strategy and innovation at Amgen. He received his bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering from UCLA. From there, he began his career at Mattel Toys, where he helped the Barbie team digitize their manufacturing design process. He began working at Amgen in a data monitoring role to ensure the quality of the manufacturing process for Amgen's medicines. After building large data solutions for various business units in Amgen, he transitioned to his current role in digital health and innovation. Carlos builds innovative and strategic digital products for patients, such as Alexa Skill for their Repatha medication. And he also does clinical trials where one can monitor patients' biomarkers on wearable devices like BioBeat. So really excited to introduce both of our speakers for today's event. They will be sharing their STEM journeys and talking a little bit more about what they do in the field of healthcare and the Internet of Things in healthcare. So I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Hirschman, and he will share his STEM journey with you.
Thanks so much. So nice to meet you all. My name is Steve Hirschman. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I ended up working on the Internet of Things in healthcare. And so like y'all, I think I had a pretty big interest in sort of science and engineering at sort of an early age. And I would take sort of the classes I could in school, like high school, but there's sort of a limit to what you can do in classes. And so, I mean, some of my early influences went beyond that. This picture here is of a library. They still exist. They have wonderful stacks of books. And if you go to the 500s to 600s, there are lots of books about science and engineering. And I mean, I would get a book from like the 1980s about polymers and kind of read it cover to cover because I don't know why I found it interesting at the time, but that's what I found interesting. And it was nice because an 80s books about polymers is still somewhat current, unlike the computer books. But nothing should sort of stop you from learning what you want. Between the internet and libraries, sort of what you want is out there. And that's sort of half of it. And the other half of it is you need some sort of a support network to sort of people to work with, have fun, and to teach you. And there were some sort of after school activities that I was involved in, Technology Student Association, which was sort of an engineering club, and Science Olympiad, which was a science competition. And I'd really sort of encourage all y'all to get involved in things like that if that's what you're interested in. And in addition to that, I also try to find research experiences during the summer. I eventually did make it to RSI, But the summer before that, I found another program, very, very good, a little bit less competitive to get into, that's still going on at the University of Florida, called the Student Science Training Program. There's a few more of these programs that exist. I think it's kind of challenging to keep them going. But I mean, I grew up in an area where there were a lot of people who had like a friend who like was a professor at the university, and that's how they got in labs. And I didn't have those connections. And there are things like this where anybody can apply, and they'll try to find some willing lab to teach you how to make a model oblate complete solution. So I went off to undergrad after college, after high school. I did a really intensive program in sort of biochemistry, but eventually learned programming is super, super useful. And once you're in college, it's a lot easier to get in a lab, and that was great until I realized like the pipetting was not for me and programming was my way out. And again, I'd encourage all y'all to learn to program a little bit. It's a lot easier online now. You probably don't have to take a college class in it, but depending on what you do, you may want to do that too. The other thing was I identified a scholarship that was available at the college, and the reason why I have master's degrees is because there was a financial incentive for me to get them. And it was sort of worth it. And the way I did it was I kind of took the classes that interested me, and I turned in the chips at the end for sort of the degrees I could. I tried not to let the curriculum sort of steer my education. College is probably like the biggest fire hose you could ever drink from. And so it is a time to drink broadly. The other thing is I also still stayed involved in activities, and they weren't just scientific. One was sort of refurbishing computers. And I think having this technology exposure was definitely helpful down the road, working in this Internet of Things field. Meanwhile, Steve Jobs was out releasing the iPhone. Little did I know. I went off to grad school at Harvard, and I kind of wanted to play Dr. House and do some genetic diagnosis of rare disease. I saw that you guys had a presentation about genomics and population health a couple of weeks ago, and but it was vaguely similar to what was presented, but actually a little bit more personal, because the patients I studied, they had very severe diseases where you couldn't really get a population of them that had it. And it was really in a single individual taking the correct component of their DNA, sequencing it, doing variant prioritization to try to figure out what might be the cause of disease. And went pretty well. They're pretty amazing times in medical diagnosis, thanks to advances in sequencing. And afterwards, I won't do anything but a postdoc. I don't think a postdoc's a particularly good deal. I think it's pretty high risk for the person doing it. And there's a lot of other exciting opportunities. In my case, it meant even working with a lab mate on pitching genomic startup ideas. Starting first with a diagnostic company, which we realized was way too much. And then something a little bit closer to the PhD, where it was a company that sort of focused on doing variant interpretation. To help get the company going, we applied to a startup accelerator, which can be a really, really powerful, enriching experience. In our case, Blueprint Health. And they said, find a business model, get on the phone, make some sales. And we tried, and we didn't make any sales. We realized maybe there's a better way to make sales and a better business. And we switched to a model where we would recruit people willing to provide their saliva and their medical records, and to try to build proprietary data sets for pharmaceuticals. Fortunately, that didn't really pan out either. When I went to meet with some Mount Sinai professors, they said, you know what, don't work on what you're doing, forget about the business models. We have the best business model for a company able to give you a life map, interpret all your health data, be it wearables, genetics, medical records, and give you advice for a healthier life. And it was a big, ambitious idea that when we sort of boil it down to a product, something we could offer, it became a lot of sort of digital health and mobile health offerings. And to work in a company like this, it's not at all like science or grad school. I mean, the tools you use, it's a lot more like an industrial tool chain, like you're working out at Google, where you have a product management tool like a Jira, you'll have crash monitoring, you'll have code review, documentation, OKRs, Asana. It's its own set of skills that a lot of people who train academically don't have, but to do research projects with the Internet of Things and mobile health, they're very important skills to pick up. And it's getting increasingly appreciated within academia with programs like software carpentry, which are really wonderful. The big thing that LifeMap got roped into was a launch of something called Research Kit. And so when the Apple Watch came out, it didn't do that many health things, but Apple had this really cool program where they were working with academics to make applications where people could, instead of recruiting through flyers, can go to the App Store, download an app, self-report who they are, to see if they're eligible, go through a consent process, and then start collecting a combination of sensor, device, and survey data. And it takes a really diverse team to make one of these apps. This was a picture of the team at Mount Sinai that worked on the asthma health app. I'm here. There were a couple of professors working on it, project managers, biostatisticians, clinical research coordinators, we had a pharmacist, and separately of the Mount Sinai team at LifeMap, we actually had a really pretty deep team, not just those running the company, but marketing people, developers, QA engineers, the Scrum leader, UX designers. There's a lot of broad skills. I mean, even down to artistic skills that become useful when doing an ML study. It's not just the pure STEM, which makes it a lot of fun, but also kind of makes it challenging. And I mean, another fun thing about the work at LifeMap was that the mobile health doesn't really end with software. We were studying asthma and COPD, and for a lot of respiratory diseases, knowing what inhalers people are taking and how often they're taking them is really representative of their disease state. And so end up doing some prototyping and then hiring somebody off Craigslist, and then actually hiring an industrial design firm to sort of ideate on what could be done here. So there are lots of directions that this field can take you. But some point, LifeMap's business model didn't really work out, and I sort of hop shipped to Stanford because they were one of LifeMap's clients. And I want to tell you a little bit more just about the mobile health projects that I was working on there, specifically the My Heart Counts Research Kit app. And so of all of them, it was probably the most successful. It got about 40,000 people out of the gate. Fortunately, with these studies, it's a bit easy come, easy go. The data that they collect is super diverse. Right now, this is our current list of health kit fields we read. We're able to read this for whichever user wants to grant us permission. They're able to control on a by field basis. And this is how we're able to take an application in the App Store and get a lot of device and app and health and all sorts of types of data. And so, for example, something you could do with it, here we're taking steps, in this case, just from a phone and showing them different years. And you could certainly see that ever since COVID happened in the blue and this year in the red, the level of activity that people have just isn't where it was before. I don't know if people are working at home and we're never going to return to a new normal or what's going on exactly. But to get these objective measures is super fun. The other thing we can do is we can see if we could actually change people's level of physical activity. This is probably the best way you can improve your heart health. And I mean, it's a very noble goal, but it's very hard to do. And so we had a randomized trial to try to do exactly that, where we had different coaching strategies, each that appeared for a week. And then we could objectively measure which ones changed the step count, which ones didn't, or some more than others. These were our preliminary results. And we actually still have researchers working on this and finding what is best and working on a new version of coaching. Another cool feature about the study is that it allowed participants to share their data broadly. And most people do this. So what does this mean? There's this data portal out there. It's on a website called Synapse. You can search the My Heart Counts public researcher portal. And it is up there so that any qualified researcher, including yourselves, potentially for a project, can go and access the data from the study. It's not the full data set. It's only people that share broadly, and it's been fully de-identified. But given that you're willing to treat the data with care and not identify people, if you describe your purpose with it, you can get access to it and do a project. And it's cool because the data comes from pretty much every state. And we have researchers from lots of states and all over the world that have used it. There's a diversity of projects. We have somebody from Craig Venter Institute doing novel AI methods off of it. There's a study about engagement to these types of mobile health apps. And what was unique about this one is that they even published a paper using these data. And so maybe you'll find them useful. And of course, the project, it sort of didn't stop with that. It's live today, but we're working on a new version. We want to get onto Android, and we're going to use a new backend supported by Google Cloud that uses a platform called My Studies to run it. And so look out for an app coming out very soon in both the iOS and Android app stores called My Fitness Counts. It's going to let us test some new fitness activities, and it'll let us inform the next version of My Heart Counts. With that, I'd just like to say that there's a lot of opportunities out there. Go find them, be the master of your own destiny. The world, not just Internet of Things, but even the genomics work I did, pretty much everything now, it's multidisciplinary. And so my advice to you is learn as many skills as you can, be deep in a few of the areas, but also learn how to collaborate with people because it's inevitable. and probably also learn to code because that's pretty useful. And then the Internet of Things and mobile health, it's a really neat area.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hirschman. So at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Carlos Albuja, who is going to talk to us about his work in the Internet of Things in healthcare.
Excited to be here. I'm going to be sharing my journey here. So a little bit about me, kind of where I got my passions early. I started getting interested in technology and IoT devices around 8th grade. I was the kind of like the tech guy for the computer lab. I would be fixing computers, always involved in the tech industry, in kind of technology and computer science. Did a couple little coding projects as well. So I definitely encourage you guys that early on, whenever you see something of interest, definitely go out there and get involved in any of those programs that are in your school or outside programs. And then from there, I went through high school and continued my passion for technology and decided to go to UCLA. I went to the School of Engineering. I studied computer science, lots of programming, lots of all-nighters doing my programming projects then. And I definitely second collaboration and definitely make sure you make a lot of friends. Because when you're in those classes, you really definitely need the support from a lot of people and helping you in your study groups. A lot of heads can help solve big problems. So the more you can collaborate, the more you can learn from other people, definitely will amplify your growth. And then from there, my professional career, I started a consumer products company, Mattel Toys. That was really fun. Worked with the Barbie team, went on the design center. I did some data projects for them, for their engineers, search kind of projects. Barbie team did the design, some graphic design projects there, digitizing the design process. That was super fun. And then I went over to Amgen, in which that's where I'm at today, in digital health and innovation. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later. My passions are definitely family, traveling, snowboarding. I love IoT devices. My house doesn't have any switches, so I live and breathe devices. Like I have hue lighting, image recognition on all my cameras, security system from the Pentagon, same technology. I just have a passion for devices, and I definitely carry that in my everyday life. I have an Apple Watch as well. And so that's what, one thing I've learned through my journey in my professional academic career is I always do what I'm passionate about. And with that, you just naturally achieve success. A little bit about Amgen. So our mission at Amgen is to serve patients. It's one of the leading biotech companies. It uses science and innovation to discover and create medicines for patients with serious illness. Some of the products that we have are Repatha for reducing cholesterol and reducing heart failure, Prolia for osteoporosis, and Aimovig for migraine headaches. I'll send some links to through Laura Ashley. Basically, there's lots more products. These are just a few I put on there. We have more in the oncology space, biosimilars. If you're interested, I'll send you guys some links as well. Do you guys know about remote patient monitoring? Have you guys heard about it? Well, I basically just took a basic definition here for remote patient monitoring from Wikipedia. Basically, it's a technology that allows you to monitor patients' kind of vital signs outside of the clinical setting. So basically in your home. And that could be kind of like what you're seeing in that picture, blood pressure. Patient there is with her doctor. And she's basically at home. She doesn't have, it allows her to actually meet with the doctor virtually. And so, remote patient monitoring can range from telehealth to devices that you can use to get care if you're in remote areas. Also, it kind of helps you with, actually going to the doctor too, because I remember back when this technology wasn't there, and I'd always prolong my yearly visits. But now it's so easy to meet with your doctor and get care. You don't have to drive there. You can just flip a laptop open and go on a Alexa device and visit your doctor, so it allows you to basically adhere more to healthcare. So what are we doing in digital health around remote patient monitoring? So one of the projects I did that was it was a clinical study around heart failure. It was called Heart Failure Evolution. We used a device called BioBeat, and that device kind of measures your blood pressure. And then we also use a device for sleeping called MFit, and that kind of monitors your heart while you sleep. So the idea around this clinical study was, are patients getting the right treatments or the right level of medications? And this one in particular kind of, since we have the Repatha product around reducing cholesterol, this is one that kind of lended nice to seeing how well our patients are doing. And it wasn't not only for Repatha, it could have been for any other medication. And then another project I kind of wanted to share, which is kind of fun, is around patient engagement. And this is also for the Repatha product medication. And I'm gonna switch over to a demo here. What we used Alexa for was helping our patients who are taking Repatha on how to take Repatha, how to get access, how to pay, how to get a copay card. And I think the demo will show you a couple things. Is a new channel, a new digital channel for helping patients get the information they need. It is still pretty new. So adoption is something that we're looking at to see if we can get it more widely used. But also helping, at some point, patients getting access to our medication as well. So I'm going to switch over to a demo here. Alexa, open Repatha.
Welcome back to Repatha, also known as evolocumab. Remember to talk to your doctor if you have any questions about your diagnosis or treatment. Now, you can ask me questions about Repatha, like how to inject or, for eligible commercially insured patients, how to get a copay card, or just say, call support, to talk to our Repatha Ready team. How can I help?
How to take Repatha?
Repatha, also known as evolocumab, is available in 3 injection options: SureQuick auto-injector, Pushtronics system, and a pre-filled syringe. Which option are you interested in?
Pushtronics.
This short video provides a high-level overview of the Repatha Pushtronics system, on-body infuser with pre-filled cartridge. It is not intended for use as an instructional video. Prior to using the Pushtronics system, read the entire patient instructions for use, which are provided in the product box. A copy of the full instructions for use can be found at repatha.com or within the product box. Before we begin, you should not use Repatha Pushtronics unless your healthcare provider has shown you how. Children 13 to 17 should only use Pushtronics under adult supervision. After referring to the instructions for use, if you're still not sure how to use Pushtronics, contact your doctor or call Repatha Ready at 1-844-REPATHA. You've been prescribed Repatha to help lower LDL bad cholesterol more than was possible with statins alone. Using Repatha Pushtronics to take your once-monthly dose of Repatha can help you lower your high cholesterol levels. Take Repatha as prescribed by your doctor. Okay, let's get started. First, we will briefly review the steps needed to take your monthly dose of Repatha: preparing for the procedure, getting yourself ready for the injection itself, and what to do when it's finished. For complete administration and storage information, please see the instructions for use available on the website or in the Repatha packaging. It's important to store Repatha the right way. That means keeping it refrigerated in its original box. Don't freeze or shake it. Don't store it in extreme heat or cold. Once removed from the refrigerator, Repatha can be kept in the original box at room temperature for up to 30 days. Keep it in the carton until you're ready to use. Remember to keep Repatha out of the reach of a child, like you would with any medicine. To prepare for administration, take the carton containing Repatha out of the refrigerator. Check the carton for damage and the expiration date on the back. If it is damaged or the date has passed, use a new on-body infuser and pre-filled cartridge. If the package is intact and unexpired, let it come to room temperature for at least 45 minutes before injection. You could take it out of the refrigerator the night before and take Repatha the next morning. In fact, You can keep Repatha Pushtronics out of the refrigerator for up to 30 days if you leave it in the carton until you are ready to use. Do not try to warm Pushtronics using hot water or a microwave, and keep it out of direct sunlight. After at least 45 minutes and Repatha has come to room temperature, open the carton and review the instructions for use. Then peel away the white paper cover. Next, remove the plastic cover from the clear tray. Leave the on-body infuser and pre-filled cartridge in the clear tray until you are ready to inject. Do not press down on the lid as it might close the door permanently. Be careful not to touch the start button until the on-body infuser is securely attached and you are ready to inject. Once gathered, the supplies you'll need to use should be placed on a clean, well-lit work surface along with the on-body infuser and pre-filled cartridge. Next, you should wash your hands well with soap and water. Choose a skin surface that is firm and flat, like the outside of your upper arm, your stomach area away from your navel, or your thigh. If you choose the upper arm, someone else will need to help you. Select the place that is less likely to have body hair. You can trim the hair if needed where you will adhere Repatha Pushtronics to your skin. Be careful not to inject into areas where the skin is tender, bruised, red, or hard. Avoid injecting into areas with wrinkles, skin folds, scars, stretch marks, moles, and excessive hair. If you want to use the same area on your body for the injections, make sure to vary the location of the injection. Clean the site with an alcohol wipe and let it dry. Don't touch this area again before you're ready to apply the on-body infuser. You can now get Repatha Pushtronics ready by swinging the cartridge door to the right to open it. Be careful not to close the cartridge door or hit the blue start button. If you accidentally close the cartridge door, press on the left side of the door to release the door latch. Inspect and clean the bottom of the dosing cartridge. The medicine in the cartridge should be clear and colorless to slightly yellow. It should not be used if it is cloudy or discolored or contains flakes or particles. If any part of the cartridge appears cracked, broken, has pieces missing, or is not securely attached, use a new Repatha Pushtronics. Hold the cartridge with one hand and clean the bottom using an alcohol wipe. Do not remove or rotate the cartridge top or bottom. Do not touch the bottom of the cartridge after cleaning. Do not insert the cartridge more than 5 minutes before injection. When you finish cleaning, load the cartridge bottom first into the on-body infuser. Firmly push the cartridge straight down until it's secure in the device. Once the cartridge is secure, close the door by swinging it to the left and squeeze firmly until it snaps into place. There should be no gap between the door and the body of the device. It's important to now move to the next step without delay. Make sure that you give your injection within 5 minutes after loading the cartridge so you don't dry out the medicine. It's now time to attach Repatha Pushtronics for the injection. Turn Repatha Pushtronics over and remove both green pull tabs. This will expose the adhesive and turn the loaded Pushtronics on. You will hear beeping and see a flashing blue status light that lets you know it's ready to place on your skin. Here is some important information to take note of once you've removed the green pull tabs and adhesive backing.
So I wanted to show that part of the video too of the Pushtronic system, because that's another form of a device, drug delivery kind of device. So that's another possibly IoT device in the future. Could tell you whether the patient has taken it, if they're adhering to their prescription, etc. And also this Alexa device helping with engagement, kind of helping the patient know how to use a Pushtronic system. Let's push it here to the end. I'm going to show another use case here, just applying for the copay card. Alexa, how do I get a copay card?
Sorry, I don't know the answer to your question. Would you like to speak to our Repatha Ready team?
Alexa, stop.
Sorry, I don't know the answer to your question.
Try that one more time. Alexa, open Repatha. Alexa, open Repatha.
Welcome back to Repatha, also known as evolocumab. Remember to talk to your doctor if you have any questions about your diagnosis or treatment. Now, You can ask me questions about Repatha, like how to inject ore for eligible commercially insured patients, how to get a copay card, or just say, call support to talk to our Repatha Ready team. How can I help?
How do I get a copay card?
If you have a prescription for Repatha, also known as evolocumab, and are commercially insured, you may be eligible for the Repatha copay card. With the Repatha copay card, you may lower your out-of-pocket costs and may pay $5 per month if you're eligible, up to program maximums. Terms and conditions apply. Would you like to speak to our Repatha Ready team to get started?
Yes,
What is the best number to reach you?
805-490-9870.
Okay, I'll be calling you at 805-490-9870 to connect you with our Repatha Ready team.
Alexa, stop.
Thank you for using Repatha. Have a great day.
So yeah, I just wanted to close out here and kind of little takeaways. So what you saw there was the Alexa device connecting you to the Repatha Ready team to basically start that process of getting the copay card. And in general, just showing you basic information. But to close out in general, I like to second some of the things that Steve said. It's basically, you know, as you're going through your academic career right now, get involved. You know, get involved with as many programs as you can to kind of, you know, further build your skills, further collaborate with people. Because when you get into whether it's doing startups or research or corporate, you're going to need to know those social skills to be able to learn and grow and get to know what you're good at and what you're not. And it's definitely something that you guys should look into as you're going through your academic careers. So that's about it. Laura Ashley, I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Okay, at this time, we are going to open it up for Q&A. I guess I'll open it up while you all are still thinking about questions that you may want to ask. I had some questions as I was going through both Dr. Hirschman's and Carlos's presentations. My first one is, I know that both of you kind of, you know, have backgrounds where, you know, you're doing things with systems, computers. Do you recommend, or what coding language would you recommend that students learn or that you use on your teams or devices?
From my experience, like I did C++ and C and BASIC, and then I started kind of building on Python. But I think in general, it's more around not which language, but kind of getting that way of thinking of logical thinking and the syntax. And once you learn one language, you can definitely learn more. So I would be more focused in you know, how do you solve a problem, and how are you going to use technology about that, and then really define that well, and then start kind of figuring out the logic around the code on a high level, and then from there see what coding languages you get good at, and then go from there. Steve?
Yeah. So in practice, there's a lot of languages. You can't learn them all. You should learn a language that's useful for whatever it is you want to do. If you want to make some like moolah and do some like blockchain development to get really good at programming, that might be the right thing to do now. It's not what we use every day. For our app development, I guess the sort of the tool chain evolves with time. It used to be a lot of Java and Objective-C, and now it's more Swift and Kotlin. For a lot of data analysis, it's in Python. If you want a general introduction, I mean, get an Arduino and do processing. You don't need sort of a hardcore programming language, but at some point you should learn C or something lower level, not to use, but so you could use Python at a higher skill level. This would be my advice.
Thank you. There are a lot of languages, so I appreciate your answering. My next question that I thought about is, I know that both of you have worked and currently work on products for telehealth, and really just for devices and the integration between the two. How long would you say beta testing for any kind of product usually takes?
I'm really curious Carlos's take here, because he actually does this professionally. In academia, I consider our study actually still to be a beta test, the way I'm finding errors in the data. I think we've gotten a lot of them by this point after 6 or so years, but we even sort of had the traditional funding or team where you have a QA engineer the whole time. So I don't know, I see mobile health as hard, and when I see other apps and studies getting launched, I see a lot of bad reviews about it being broken. And so I'm not sure that there is an answer about when this stuff ever gets fixed.
Yeah, it varies depending on what what you're doing and how you're going about attacking that solution. Right now, iterative is very popular to start small and then start growing it and growing it, and proving that it works. Testing can range from, like, let's put in an example on that Alexa app. I think we tested it for 4 or 5 weeks, and that still has its kinks too. You know, it's a new technology, and you're still it's still learning from all the phrases that you're saying, all the intent, so it's still growing. And so if you're trying to do a big project, like a big data implementation, that can range to months, even like a year of not even getting released, and you're still testing it, especially when you start going through necessary legal approvals and compliance. And if you have like GMP stuff, like global manufacturing principles or protocols, you're talking, that can be a multi-year program, in which it's not weeks. It's like you have a whole team, dedicated team, just for testing, and nobody, the external customer won't even see it. It's more beta testing internally within the company or within the product team, until finally it gets released and it iterates through. So it varies quite a bit.
Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, I think even with, I have an Alexa, and it's like, I can't say, I know you can rename the device. I just feel like sometimes I feel like I'm not even saying anything, and then she'll just, or I'm not directing a question or a statement to her, and then she'll just like speak, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so weird. Like, she's listening. And so, yeah, I think that definitely it's interesting to see how the device is always learning, because she'll say things like, if you need me to blah, 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 like, I don't know, like, they're always learning. And so it's definitely, everything is a work in progress, but it still does creep me out sometimes, which I wanted to also bring up that I know you mentioned how, you're like a switch-free household, like you're really big on devices. Do either of you see a downside in like devices, us being, more driven to go that route, like more device oriented? Do either of you see any cons with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start, I guess. I mean, for what I've seen is, privacy, right? I think that's the big one that everybody always brings up, is privacy. It's in your home. So I think that's one thing that needs to kind of be figured out, how to maneuver through all the, through the landscape of different households and the different preferences, and what tolerance level that people have, because every household has a different tolerance level for that particular privacy level. So that's one thing I'm seeing over and over. And then ownership of the data too. I'm sure that's going to start. That's already starting. If it's data that I'm collecting, I'm sending it to various companies. Who owns that data really is do I get a piece of that action too, as me sharing my personal data to you, is another topic that I've seen come up.
Yeah, now privacy is not just about your data using the devices. You suddenly have a device on your network that might have a security hole, or it can get hacked and can operate oddly. As you make the case, there's a little bit more power draw from these Internet of Things devices, though it's more or less negligible. There's a bit of complexity to it, I guess. As long as you said for a switcher, but I'm going to add them as I can afford to add them to my house. Have to fix the roof first, but it'd be nice to get some.
Thanks, Steve and Carlos. So I do see a couple of questions here. One of the questions for a student is, what drew you to telehealth, and what is your advice for people wanting to go in that field education-wise? So I guess that question, if you all want to just retouch on, what drew you to that field, and then what kind of careers or majors do you see being associated with the field of telehealth?
I'll start with it didn't start off as telehealth for me. It started off as technology and devices. And then from there, I started getting high cholesterol. I started also working for Amgen, seeing kind of the impact I have on patients. And then on a personal level, how do I lower my cholesterol? How do I stay more healthy? How do I, just have a very healthy journey as I get older? So it's a personal one, and it's also that the fact that I love technology and I can make an impact to help people and help patients.
Yeah, I guess I stumbled into it with Life Map, and I think if you want to get good at it, I mean, it's just like any other field. I think COVID showed that remote is kind of in person, and telehealth. You probably want to be technology savvy a little bit because you're gonna get some data streams from people, and I think definitely being empathetic to make sure that you're still able to get a good quality of care when working remotely. But I don't know if it's all that different.
Thank you, Dr. Hirschman. And this next question might actually be more something that you might be able to help with, Dr. Hirschman. It says, where can a rising ninth grader look for lab-based research opportunities to build ML applications using real-life data?
Yeah. All right. So for a ninth grader, it's going to be hard to find summer programs that accept you or a professor that wants to take you on. That shouldn't stop you from like carpet bombing and emailing professors and directors of mobile health and postdocs in a university. But if you don't hear back, like it's not you, it's just the system. People are busy, and sometimes you can't even take on a high schooler depending on the institution that you're working at. And so then if it's up to you to sort of do this yourself, I mean, there are challenges out there where there are competitions to make the best AI model. That's probably a good place to start to hone your skills. They'll have a data set for you. They'll have a compute environment. They'll have a problem. They may even have teams in the message board that you can get going on it. Things like Kaggle can be really good. There are these dream challenges in biology that are maybe less for rewards, but more for science, where similarly, you can get involved with that. They had one where they took walking gait data for people with Parkinson's disease, and several groups had some really impressive algorithms. And beyond that, there's data sets like For My Heart Counts, this public researcher portal, where if you want to download it, you can get raw data during a walk test. You can get people's health factors if you want to build a model on that. It might be a starting point. There are probably bigger data sets out there. We're going to try to publish our full 6 or 7 years very soon. And when that comes out, I think it'll be very useful. Until then, there's Medicare claims, there's all of us, there's a lot of public data sets that you can get your hands on. It's a little hard to do it in a void. So it is important to find mentorships, but maybe there's a teacher who will help you. And as long as you someone bounce ideas off of, you'll get there.
Thank you, Dr. Hirschman. I hope that answered your question to the person, the student who asked. I had another thought when you both were presenting. I know that a lot of, telehealth is devices. Do you ever foresee hospitals or companies providing or like loaning devices to patients rather than just the expectation that patients would have, the ability or the resources to purchase their own device? Is that a thing that's already being done by companies and hospitals?
I'll do a personal experience on this. My dad, he's in his 80s. His doctor sent over a device to monitor his heart. So, and also when you do like surgeries and stuff, they sometimes, instead of you staying in the hospital, they'll send you a device to kind of monitor you after a big surgery. So I know those two cases are pretty good ones right now that they're doing it.
Yeah, I've done some research projects like this. I had one where we took people right after heart transplant, gave them a bunch of Withings wearables. In the medical system and by providers, this is happening a little bit, and it's more for sort of chronic care management. Providers like Ochsner are probably those that are doing the best. I mean, they give out so many devices. They even have a tech bar where you can get help using them within the environment, because they found that was essential to make a program like this work. And I think that sort of speaks to the complexity of it and the reason why you don't see it more yet. It's very hard to get sort of a program deployed, get people using it, have the doctors be able to react and have it save money. But I think you're going to definitely see more of it in the coming years.
Yeah, let me add another thing too. Clinical studies, like even with that BioBeat one that I sent, I mean, we were sending the devices if you just signed up for the clinical study.
Thank you. I have another question from a student. Says, what do you think will make professors more likely to take a student on in a lab? Do you think you need to know exactly what you're interested in researching before you start reaching out?
Yeah, I don't think you have to know what you're interested in. I think when you reach out, you should put enough in the message that the person knows that like you read what their page is and what they do. But as for what their pressing needs are and what opportunities are, there's no way you're going to guess it. And so it may be good to sort of say what skills you have and what you bring to the table.
Okay, so thank you again, everybody, for joining us. And thank you so much to Dr. Steve Hirschman and Carlos Albuja. So feel free to check out CE's website to learn more about our other programs for students, USABO and RSI.